Imagine stepping into a theater in 1979, expecting just another sci-fi flick, then walking out with your pulse still rattling hours later. Alien didn't just show fear, it engineered it. But the terror wasn't confined to the screen. Behind the cameras, actors were blindsided by violence they never rehearsed. A studio hid its monster like a state secret, and even a cat was pushed into primal panic. These aren't scenes you'll find in the movie. They're the nightmares buried just outside the frame. Fact 1. Surprise gore. Real reaction. When the chestburster exploded from Kane's body, the cast had no idea what was about to happen. They were told there would be some blood. But Ridley Scott kept the true horror hidden. Then the moment came. Pressure fired, the rig burst, and a spray of gore hit their faces. Veronica Cartwright staggered back, shrieking in panic, eyes wide with genuine terror. The camera never cut, capturing every gasp, every curse, every instinct to recoil. That's why the scene doesn't feel staged. It wasn't. For a few chaotic seconds, the actors weren't performing at all. They were betrayed by the set itself, realizing too late that the nightmare they signed up for had already slipped its claws under their skin. Fact 2. Children to fake scale. The Nostromo looked impossibly vast, like a cathedral built for giants. But here's the secret. Some of those explorers weren't adults at all. Ridley Scott dressed his own children, and a cameraman's son in miniature spacesuits to trick the eye. On camera, their tiny frames made the ship seem endless. Corridors stretched, platforms soared, shadows swallowed whole. It was effective but brutal. The kids could barely breathe under those oversized helmets, sweating in silence until Scott ordered oxygen pumped inside. What you see on screen isn't just clever design, it's desperation transformed into scale. The Nostromo became more than steel and fiberglass. It became a prison for small bodies, a labyrinth so colossal it seemed to dwarf humanity itself. Fact 3. The crew was originally gender neutral. In the earliest drafts, the Nostromo's crew had no fixed genders. Roles were written unisex, the dialogue stripped of pronouns, as if anyone could slip into any position. It was only later that Ripley was decided to be a woman. That choice, almost casual, changed everything. Sigourney Weaver stepped into a role not designed around femininity, but around survival, and that made her performance raw, practical, and unshaped by cliché. Ripley doesn't flirt, doesn't plead, doesn't bow. She commands, calculates, endures. What began as a blank slate became one of cinema's most enduring heroines. It wasn't a statement on paper, but on screen, it transformed into a quiet revolution, proving that strength and terror don't belong to one gender alone. Fact 4. The cocoon. That was too much. Deep in the director's cut lies a scene most audiences never saw. Ripley stumbling onto Dallas and Brett, cocooned and half transformed. Their flesh wasn't just dying, it was mutating, being rewritten into alien eggs. Dallas pleads for death, his humanity dissolving under the horror of biological inevitability. Ridley Scott filmed it, but in test screenings, the sequence strangled the pace. Ripley's escape faltered, dragged into nightmare imagery too grotesque, too strange for the moment. It was cut, left as a ghost for future editions. Yet the idea lingers like a splinter, that the true terror wasn't being hunted by a monster, it was becoming the monster itself, piece by piece, until even your screams reshaped into someone else's birth. Fact 5. The tagline that screamed in silence. Before the creature was revealed, before a drop of blood hit the lens, Alien already terrified audiences with a single line. In space, no one can hear you scream. It wasn't an accident. Ridley Scott's campaign was designed around silence, restraint, and dread. The words crept across posters beside a cracked egg glowing with sickly light, a promise that something unspeakable was waiting to hatch. The line struck a primal chord, whispering that survival itself would be useless where the void swallows sound. Even today, it remains one of cinema's most chilling taglines, not a roar, but a whisper stretched across blackness. It taught audiences to fear the silence before the monster even appeared, and it never let go. Fact 6. Ash was never human at all. You trust a crew member, but in Alien, Ash smiles, calculates, betrays. At first glance, Ash, Ian Holm, is just the science officer making awkward small talk. Behind that awkwardness, an order. Hidden in the lines is the revelation. Ash is an android, planted to deliver the alien back to the company. His anatomy drips with betrayal, wires, tubes, pulp masquerading as flesh. He deactivates quarantine protocols, values the monster over his own teammates. The moment his real nature peels away, it fractures the relationship you assumed was safe. Ash isn't a twist, he's a prophecy that humanity can be engineered, masked, and reprogrammed. You fear the creature, but Ash teaches you to fear the ones you trusted to care. Fact 7. Ash's death was a puppet's final mockery. When the crew finally rips Ash open, what emerges isn't just circuitry, it's a grotesque machine body, animated as if alive. A mechanical puppet's torso was rigged underneath, contorting wildly, acid spitting, arms flailing like someone struggling against selfhood. Sometimes the puppet wrenches so violently it causes real shock on set. The body's entrails ooze with caviar, fiber optics, chartreuse fluids, flesh and machine dissolving one into the other. Holm himself knelt beneath, his head pushed through the table, registering subtle expression. That moment melts emotion and repulsion halfway. You're not watching a robot die, you're watching a malformation of life being disentangled from itself. Fact 8, the title itself is a threat. Before any alien appears, before corridors echo, the title creeps. A-L-I-E-N. The letters assemble slowly, fractured at first, suggestion more than form. It's a word being born before your eyes. Scott and his effects team designed it so the typography itself breathes. An alien life hinted in the shape of the name. No roar, no reveal, just slow, uncanny emergence. That opening alone teaches you fear. You wait not for the creature, but for the moment the blank becomes the grotesque. It whispers, "Terror is patient." It doesn't announce itself. It presses you into silence so you'll listen when it finally speaks. Fact 9. The Space Jockey was meant to spell mystery. When Ripley and the crew reach the derelict ship, they find a giant, fossilized humanoid in a throne, hulking, silent, inexplicable. Now, that's the Space Jockey, a relic whose presence can't be rational. No voice, no name, no origin. That skeletal figure became a cornerstone of fan obsession. Designers once wanted to explain it, but Scott resisted. Sometimes silence fuels horror more than explanation. The jockey whispers questions in your skull. Who built it? What died for its seat? What stories are buried with its bones? You don't need the answers. You only need its weight in emptiness. It's a reminder that in Alien, myth is architecture as much as plot. Fact 10, the creature was never in marketing. Fox made a daring promise. The alien would not be shown before you see it in the film. No trailers, no posters revealing claws or jaws, only hints. A cracked egg, a glowing membrane, a promise whispered in darkness. They leaned into absence. That silence became marketing's deadliest weapon. Audiences walked into theaters with no visual reference. What you imagined could be worse than what exists. When the creature finally appears, you've already built worse in your mind. Its reveal becomes a violent collapse of your own conjecture. The monster is strongest when unseen. By selling the void, they sold fear itself. Fact 11, the cat. That refused to pretend, Jonesy, the ship's orange tabby, wasn't just a mascot. He became the film's most honest witness. To get that unforgettable hiss when the alien looms behind Brett, the crew staged a cruel trick. They placed Jonesy in a box with a screen, then revealed a German shepherd just inches away. When the barrier dropped, the cat's fur bristled, pupils dilated, and his body froze in primal terror. That reaction wasn't acting, it was instinct, captured raw on film. 4 cats played Jonesy, each trained for different behaviors, but only one gave that perfect eruption of fear. In a movie built on elaborate sets, complex puppetry, and camera tricks, it was a simple animal that delivered the truest scream. Fact 12. Acid blood. That eats the ship alive. You don't kill the alien, you risk killing yourself. Its blood is molecular acid, designed to make even its death lethal. When Parker and Brett first wound it, the fluid spills onto the deck plates and burns through steel like paper. Crew members chase the dripping ooze down multiple levels, helpless as their sanctuary dissolves beneath them. This wasn't just a clever scare. Designer Ron Cobb wanted to stop audiences from asking the obvious. Why not just shoot it? The acid makes violence impossible, turning every attack into suicide. It's biological insurance, horror baked into anatomy. In a film already claustrophobic, the idea that the monster's blood could breach the hull adds a final cruelty. The ship itself could be unstitched by its veins. Fact 13. The heat that nearly killed them. The suits that made the Nostromo crew look like explorers were closer to coffins than costume. Under blazing studio lights, the heavy fabric and sealed helmets trapped heat until actors were gasping for air. Inside the helmets, glass fogged so quickly they could barely see. Movement slowed to a crawl, bodies sagged under the weight. On more than one occasion, actors fainted, collapsing mid-scene, leaving crew scrambling to pull helmets off before someone passed out for good. Even the children used in miniature suits nearly collapsed until oxygen lines were secretly piped inside. That's why the astronauts' steps look so heavy, so pained. They weren't just acting, they were suffocating. The terror of the void began with the air they couldn't breathe. Fact 14. The Space Jockey's eternal question. Tucked in the derelict ship lies a fossilized giant, slumped in its chair, ribcage blown open. The crew calls it the Space Jockey, but no answers follow. Pilot, prisoner, god? Its sheer size dwarfs the humans. reminding us that even the alien they fear is part of something larger. Fans obsessed over that silent body for decades, spinning theories until prequels tried to answer it. But in 1979, the jockey was pure mystery, an image of age, extinction, and scale. It tells us the universe doesn't care about explanation. Something came before something died, and something worse was born from its ruin. That fossil isn't just a corpse. It's a question that lives longer than the film itself. Who was here first, and what else did they leave behind? Fact 15. The director in the gutter. Most of Alien's intense close-ups and uncomfortably tight corridors weren't shot from smooth dollies or cranes. They were filmed handheld. The art director Roger Christian later said, 80% of Alien was shot on Ridley's shoulder. He literally had the camera strapped around him to chase horror down hallways. Because the sets were cramped and low-ceilinged, mounting big rigs was impossible, so Scott himself became part of the fear machine. The lens breathing, strafing, ducking behind pipes with the actors. The effect is visceral. You're not watching monsters, you're breathing beside them, trying to see around the corner heart tight, caught in a ship that moves and breathes itself. Fact 16. Glyphs in the dark. Inside the derelict ship, strange carvings crawl along walls, hieroglyphs suggesting the alien life cycle, symbols that hint at birth, death, and evolution. Some set designers slipped in motifs of alien embryology and cyclical mutation. Though most audiences never consciously notice them, those glyphs turn the stones into language. They murmur of sacrifices, cycles, corridors built by minds unfathomable. The jockey's ship isn't an empty tomb. It's a memorial to a biology we can't read. And in that architecture, the alien is already speaking, not with noise, but with walls that remember what it has built. Fact 17. The first cut ran 3 hours. Imagine Alien stretched to feature-length epic. Early editors sent back cuts over 3 hours long. Every corridor extended. Every silence lingered. But Scott and his team pared it down, stripping away dreamy digressions, cutting cocoon scenes, collapsing plot threads. The result? A lean, suffocating journey of dread. The slower pacing isn't laziness, it's precision. You're allowed to breathe, just long enough that the next scream is devastating. The pacing was chosen, sharpened. What you don't see is as much a weapon as what you do. Fact 18. A legacy born in silence. In 2002, Alien entered the U.S. National Film Registry as culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. That's not just a label. It's a formal acknowledgement that a film once whispered too loudly has become part of the American cinematic spine. It means the film's darkness, its design, its restraint, its horror, they all became heritage. Decades after its release, people study its shadows. Doors hum, lighting breaths, AI designs flicker, and filmmakers still ask, how do we scare without showing? Alien answered that quietly. Its legacy isn't in explosions or CGI. It's a curriculum in silence, scale, and the fear that lives between frames. Outrow, that was the untold story of Alien, 1979. The chestburster secrets, the space jockey mystery, and the suffocating terror behind Ridley Scott's classic. These shocking behind-the-scenes facts prove why Alien remains one of the scariest horror movies ever made. A masterpiece of science fiction, practical effects, and survival dread. From Sigourney Weaver's Ripley to H.R. Geiger's nightmarish designs, its legacy echoes across every modern sci-fi horror. The creature may sleep, but its shadow still hunts. And remember, in space, no one can hear you scream.